Hello, welcome to a very brief tour of my English 100 composition class in Canvas. The basic philosophy behind my course design focuses on creating access points that carefully guide students into scaffolding tasks and also allow students to navigate tasks uniquely and even creatively. The goal of these initial access points, just like the first levels in any good video game, is to offer enough orientation, enough support, and the right amount of tools needed to equip those who pass beyond those access points to successfully explore engaging encounters with tasks, content, and in my own class, writing. So long as the pathways through the course are well lit, students can feel confident to navigate with creativity, loop back, and even play inside the curriculum. That's the goal, at least. To achieve this goal, I've built my course around doorways. I've kept the back doors to the course, such as the sidebar navigation links, as spare as I can, and I tell my students that the initial doorway to the course is this, the weekly tasks and discussions link. This link leads them to the weekly semester schedule. When they are working on a given week, they have a button that takes them to the week's announcement. Another button that takes them to a quiz that ensures they've watched that announcement and understand the important objectives for the week. And then a button that takes them to the week's tasks. This is how I guide and equip my students to succeed in a week's set of tasks, but also so students feel free to explore once they get into those tasks for the week. Once a student arrives at the week's task page, they encounter the same 4 things every week. At the top of the page are lecture materials that I use to start a discussion relating to writing instruction or an essay topic. Below the lecture materials are assigned readings with critical thinking questions and a link to a reading journal. Below the what we're writing is the week's activity. This is usually a discussion or a workshop of a draft. And each of these 3 tasks, responding to a lecture, reading, and discussions, leads to a 4th and final task, which is drafting and or revising an essay. Every week is structured around these 4 tasks. This makes the workload predictable and manageable, but it also allows me to build in innovations to content that help to engage interest. Now, I've set these tasks on top of each other in a way that allows for scaffolding. Many students start with my lectures, build on those ideas with their reading responses, and then exchange those ideas with each other in a discussion or workshop to make the ideas unique and more developed. They then finally push those ideas into an essay. Hopefully that sounds straightforward. However, the writing process is not so linear, and at one point in the semester, students begin to realize that there are more productive ways to navigate these tasks. For example, a student who's watched my announcements and knows the goals for the week can feel free to play around in this content area. In fact, these questions I'm asking about the reading and the question I asked in discussions can give a context for viewing my lecture. In other words, because these tasks have been designed to appear on one page, and since students interacting with this design must constantly slide up and down over these points of instruction over and over again as they work through a given week, they realize there is a recursive nature to this instruction as well as within their own writing process. So for me, choosing to display all 4 tasks vertically like this in a visually rich and textually interesting mode is a design decision that aligns with my own pedagogy and my goal to guide online learners through engaging encounters. All relevant content can be accessed through this weekly tasks and discussions doorway, such as links to prompts, links to reading, links to discussions, etc. In other words, a student can complete the entire course having only entered through this weekly tasks doorway. However, I know that a student who has come into the course, who already understands the goals, and is working through tasks may prefer to access content more quickly. And so I've created 3 ancillary doorways on the home page that gives quick access to assignments, to course materials such as the syllabus as well as tutorials. And I've also given quick access to fellow students in an open discussion board as well as email. Overall, my goal for this design is to establish a surprising predictability regarding what is expected and how to locate content. Students in my class should know what is expected every given week. They should also know how to find content quickly within a few clicks. And their interests in the concepts, discussions, and tasks should be constantly provoked into exploration and creativity by the design.